try that again and read it like an adult. Mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, indicted on federal charges. Eric Adams has been the first major city that is led by a Democrat that came out and said it would be destroyed by illegal migrant influx. This is going back almost exactly a year ago, September 7th of 2023. And he was the first one to come out against this. And then February 21st of 2024, he slashes funding to migrants and cancels city budget cuts. I'm going to play this quick clip so we can all hear what the news said about it at the time.
For New York City, canceled, which is good news. Mayor Adams today telling city agencies there will not be another cut come April as scheduled. The mayor says increased tax revenues and cutting nearly $600 million for services for migrants. With those budget reductions, says Mr. Adams, agency cuts are no longer needed. The mayor speaking exclusively today to Eyewitness News reporter N.J. Burkett.
You're not going to see some of those draconian steps that we were going to have to take.
Mayor Adams says New Yorkers should feel relieved. After 2 rounds of punishing budget cuts to all but the most essential city services, the budget is stabilizing. In an exclusive Eyewitness News interview, he announced that a planned 3rd round will no longer be necessary.
Well, if we had to do the 3rd rounds, it would impact garbage pickup. It would impact services to our older adults. It would impact libraries. It would impact a series of services that you would actually see the difference.
Instead, the mayor said he's cutting funding for asylum seekers by 10%, on top of a previous 20% cut, for nearly 1/3 cutback on city spending for migrants.
You know, you got to be impressed that he was willing, at least, to say, hey, instead of harming the citizens of New York City, we're going to just go ahead and start cutting this stuff for the migrants. I mean, think about it. Who's paying the taxes? The citizens. So, yeah, they should have fire departments and police departments. They should have trash pickup. They should have all of these services. And let's take the money from the people that don't belong here and that aren't here legally. Well, you're going to see he's now paying for biting the Democratic hand that whacks him and tells him what to do. So anyway, that's where we were as of about, 8 months ago? Well, the Department of Justice didn't like that. They raided his house a month ago, and now he's being indicted. This is from the New York Magazine. Eric Adams has been charged by federal prosecutors in Manhattan, a stunning blow to the first-term mayor who once proclaimed himself the future of the Democratic Party. The precise charges are not publicly known as the indictment remains sealed. The indictment caps a year of deepening legal and political peril for the city's second black leader, rewriting the story of his first campaign for City Hall and casting a pall over his bid for a second term. In the past 2 weeks, Adams has lost police commissioner, high school chancellor, and health commissioner. Now, let's put a pin in that for just a moment. He said, the article itself says, the indictment caps a year of deepening legal and political peril. 1 year. Today is September 25th. When did Eric Adams speak out against the migrant influx destroying the city? September 7th of last year. This is the statement that made them to decide to come after him, in my opinion. Him saying that illegal immigration will destroy the city and we need to stop it. This is why they're going after him. I believe that the Biden or the powers that be decided to weaponize the DOJ against Eric Adams for that statement, if I have to be honest. They say the move from prosecutors working for Damian Williams, the U.S. Attorney for Southern District of New York, comes just weeks after his office executed a series of raids on top members of the Adams administration, including 2 deputy mayors and the police commissioner at the time, many of whom have close and personal relationships with the mayor. They say below are live updates on the developing story. And so this is going backwards in time as I read these. Oh, let me issue a public correction. The story I did yesterday on on us deploying more people to Middle East, deploying more people to Ukraine. One of the articles I read was from 2022. I did a search, and at the top of a web page, when you do a search, like right up here, it's called Tools, and you click it, and right here you can select any time, or you can put the past week or past month. I always click the past week for stories, but somehow it slipped through the filter and I got an old story in there. Nonetheless, we are sending new, fresh troops to Ukraine. That part is true. The article I read from, however, was old. I do want to issue that correction because I did get that wrong, and that's on me. Okay, going back in time here. Local politicians have had already been calling for Adams to resign. Calls for Adams to step down as mayor had been growing in the past week since the federal government conducted a series of raids on his top aides. The group was largely made up of progressives from the state legislature and the city council, who often clashed with a more moderate Adams on policies such as city council member Tiffany Caban and state senator Jabari Brisport. On Wednesday, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez joined their ranks, writing on social media that the parade of exits from the city government following the federal searches were a threat to City Hall's day-to-day functions. For the good of the city, he should resign, Ocasio-Cortez said. See, he's a little bit more moderate than they are, and because of that, they're going after him. I think that just, to me, that's what it seems like. They're going after their own because he's not woke and he's not progressive enough. Adams' prospective primary challengers have begun to weigh in following the news of the mayor's indictment. Former comptroller Scott Stringer said in a statement, "The mayor needs to resign for the good of the city. His legal fight is not our fight." Brad Lander is also calling for Adams to resign. The most appropriate path forward is for him to step down so that New York City can get the full focus of the leadership, its leadership demands. They go on to say he's going to surrender himself to the authorities next week. He's made history as the city's first indicted mayor. Who cares? Now, this is when they say how it all began. I'm not sure about this. I still think it's for the reasons I said, but you never know. They say the first signs of trouble for Adams came on November 2nd, 2023, with an ominous round of raids targeting people close to City Hall while he was traveling to Washington, D.C. for a White House meeting with mayors about the migrant crisis. FBI agents were executing search warrants at the home of 3 Adams associates, including his chief fundraiser, Brianna Suggs, for dealing involvement in the Turkish government. Now, here's the timing on all this stuff. Number one, he makes this statement in September, early September of 2023. In November, he's told he needs to fly to Washington, D.C. with a meeting of mayors about the crisis, and it was probably to tell him to shut up about that stuff. And at the same time he did that, FBI started doing some search warrants while he was gone. I don't see how you can argue these aren't all connected in some way. Now, could he have taken money from the Turkish government? He might have, but is he the only one? I mean, we know Act Blue has been funneling strange money from odd sources overseas. I'm curious to see how this develops. They say in New Jersey, agents took cell phones and other material from the homes of Rihanna Abasova, director of protocol in the mayor's office for internal affairs, and Cenk Okal, a former Turkish Airlines executive who served on the mayor's elect transition committee. Agents left Suggs' home in Crown Heights with 3 iPhones, 2 laptops, and a manila folder labeled Eric Adams, the New York Times reported. Alerted to the Suggs raid by a staff member, Adams returned around after landing in D.C. and boarded a flight back to New York City. He told reporters the following week he had skipped the migrant summit out of concern for the 25-year-old Suggs. On the following Monday, FBI agents approached Adams as he left an event in New York City University and confiscated 2 cell phones and an iPad that were in his possession. As a former member of law enforcement, I expect all members of my staff to follow the law. I have nothing to hide, the mayor said afterwards, a refrain used for variations as the Turkey probe advanced and other investigations materialized. Another sweep came in on September 4th of 2024. Federal agents conduct an early morning raids of the homes of senior city officials, including New York City Police Department Commissioner Edward Caban, Deputy Mayor for Public Safety Philip Banks III, his brother's school's chancellor David Banks, First Deputy Mayor Shiana Wright, David Banks' fiance, and a top mayoral advisor, Timothy Pearson, Cabal's identical twin brother, James, and a younger Banks sibling, Terrence, had also had phones confiscated. So let me get this right. You've got the New York Police Department, the commissioner, Edward Caban, and the deputy mayor, Philip Banks, for public safety, and his brother, who's the school chancellor, and then the first deputy mayor, who's David Banks' fiance, Timothy Pearson, and let me see who else here, and Caban's identical brother, James. Gee, what a coincidence that all these people happen to be involved and happen to be related and or dating each other. Boy, if that doesn't sound like nepotism, I don't know what is. So, it could be that all of them are in those positions as favors, but as mayor, this would fall on Eric Adams for all that stuff. So maybe there is something, to this, that Adams did take some money, and then through nepotism and favors, he filled up all these advisory positions with people that were in on it. I still, though, don't think they would have looked into this had Eric Adams kept his mouth shut about the migrant situation. I think that pissed him off, and they probably went after him for that. The coordinated raids came in support of 2 investigations unrelated to Turkey, but ran primarily out of the Manhattan U.S. Attorney's Office. One probe is looking into a consulting firm run by Terrence Banks, whose fortunes rose when its older brothers joined the Adams administration, and the other is focused on whether James Caban had used his family ties to the police commissioner to gain work for his security business, according to news reports. Edward Caban resigned 10 days after the raid. His brother and the Banks siblings have all denied wrongdoing. David Banks later resigned as school's chancellor. Well, there it is. I mean, that's the run-up to this stuff. I don't know if they started looking into it or what happened, but here we are. Mayor Eric Adams is on the hook. I think it's because he didn't play ball with the administration, but I guess we'll have to find out later. And of course, we'll never find out why they actually decided to go after him.